The world is horny for challengers. Well, I'm horny for the Fall Guy. My name is Jason. I am the last manager of the last video store in the universe. Binge Movies. Let's go, Binge Movies. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Wake up, everybody. Fall Guy's here. It's time to get bricked up in the theater. Let's go. Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, the two most attractive people on God's green earth, are in a movie together that is an adaptation of an 80s weekly adventure series. We've had the A-Team. Get the fuck out of here, Bradley Cooper. We've had Equalizer. Fuck off, Denzel Washington. We've had... What else have we had? But now we got The Fall Guy. And next up is Manimal. When is the Manimal adaptation coming out? That's what I want to know. When are we getting Manimal? I rank movies on the internet for people to debate me about them, and then I have avatars debate those movies against themselves, and then I let listeners vote on those, and those go into a vault so that the demons that control our universe have something to watch when humanity ceases to exist. It's a very simple premise, very easy to keep up with. That's the show. When I'm not doing that, I'm doing stuff on Patreon, bending my knee to the will of the people, patreon.com/binge movies, where you could get this instant reaction even more instantaneously and perhaps extended. And when I'm not doing that, I'm going to the movie theater. I'm sitting down, I'm watching movies, and then I'm talking about them on the internet instantaneously, giving you my thoughts. There's a lot of ums and ahs. These are not well-formed opinions. These are instant reactions. Here's my instant reaction for The Fall Guy. It took this movie 25 to 30 minutes for me to get on board because it has, maybe 40 minutes, because it has three beginnings. It has three opening scenes, more or less. There's the opening scene, which is kind of a extended cold open, which gives us the background between the cult, whatever his name is. He's playing the $1 Million Man. Not the Ted DiBiase, but the other $1 Million Man. He's not the $1 Million Man. He's the $6 Million Man. Oh my gosh, I'm losing track of my 70s nostalgia. My God. What's wrong with me? Anyway, Ryan Gosling is playing a modern version of Lee Majors' Colt Seavers. So the premise of the Fall Guy TV series, as best as I can recollect it, because I think I only saw it in reruns, it was a weekly adventure serial sort of television program, not unlike The Equalizer or Manimal or A-Team or Knight Rider, which is probably my favorite out of all of them. Guy, or even The Incredible Hulk, right? The Bill Bixby show. Guy gets a case or comes into a certain kind of town and is pressed by his heroism and good morals to do something. And in the case of The Fall Guy, the premise was he was a stuntman by day. So he worked on movies and TV shows doing stunts. And he was a private detective or bounty hunter. Bounty hunter. He was a bounty hunter. I think that's right. It might be, what's the one where it was the city cop and the cowboy guy, and it was Dr. Burke's husband who played Major Dad, and he would, in the opening, he was lassoing people on the back of a GMC truck. I always get that and The Fall Guy confused. But anyways, Lee Majors would moonlight as a bounty hunter or something to that effect, and would use the practical stunt stuff that he knew, how to scale buildings, how to fall, how to fight, all of his, how to race cars, how to flip a car and not die, all this other sort of stuff. He knew how to do that sort of stuff, and he used that as a bounty hunter. So it was a stunt show. That kind of carries over, and by the end of the movie, that's kind of where they end up. And he had Heather Thomas played his occasional sidekick. I feel like the main sidekick in the show was a dude. And there was a female stunt woman named Jody who I think popped in and out of the show. This is all from foggiest memory. But anyways, Emily Blunt in this film is playing Jody, and instead of being another stunt woman, she is a camera operator. And they are on location shooting an action movie for a Tom Cruise stand-in, Tom Ryder, who is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. And he has to do a fall from a high, a harnessed fall. And we're talking about Colt, a.k.a. Our boy Ryan Gosling. And the fall occurs, and something's wrong with the rig, and he falls, and he shatters his back. And this happens, he's kind of the number one stunt guy in Hollywood, and he's Tom Ryder, who's the number one star in Hollywood, his main stunt guy. And he is pursuing this love affair interest with Emily Blunt's character, Jody, who is, again, a camera operator, who has aspirations to be assistant director, et cetera, et cetera. And it's the beginning, early stages of their sort of an on-set relationship, an on-set fling that seems like it could be leading to more. And once his back is shattered into a million pieces, he feels like she was only attracted to him because of his status and because of his lifestyle as a stunt guy, and he can't really do a lot of that stuff anymore. At least he feels like he can't. He's scared, and you can't do stunts scared. And he blames himself for the accident. He feels like he fucked up the gag of the stunt. And so he disappears. He leaves Hollywood. He cuts everybody out of his life and goes to park cars somewhere. That's one opening. Okay? Then we get the second opening, which is him living his life parking cars. And they kind of intersect. But not in a it's not a smooth transition from the backstory to where he is in present day as the movie actually begins. This is still all the cold open. To then we get into the movie, which is we got to get the guy back on set. So that's the third thing that happens. And then there's the actual plot, which is what they've shown you in the trailers, spoiler free, that the star of the movie has gone missing. This is a $300 big action sci-fi movie. It's Jodie's first film. And he feels like he's let her down in life because he ghosted her. And he kind of wants to win her back. But even more than that, he wants to do right by her and help her finish the movie. So the producer of the film, character's name is Gail, is like, we need you to do these stunts. We're doing stunts that only you can do. And Tom wants you here and Jodie wants you here. You got to come back. And that incentivizes him enough to think that, okay, maybe Jodie has forgiven me and I can make amends to her, that he goes over to Australia to shoot the film. And once he gets there, Gail's like, actually, the real reason why you're here is that Tom is missing and nobody knows him better than you because you were a stunt double for 15 years. You got to go. I can't leave. We can't. Nobody can know. The studio can't know because we're already over budget. Jodie can't know because she's barely keeping her head above water on this giant movie that's going sideways. And we need you to go find him. And so that's kind of how we get to the kind of a bounty hunter-esque sort of like find a missing person sort of a thing, that plot that he gets involved in because he's trying to find the star of the movie. And so that's sort of an adaptation of the TV show. And that's the main plot. That main plot point, and then what comes out of that main plot point, which is where all of your action, 99% of it, and the intrigue and the mystery, which is truly no great mystery, but all that stuff comes. It feels like 40 minutes into the movie. And once it gets there, it starts to cook a little bit. But until that point, I was like, the cold open's good. Like, it's fine. I get it. And when we see where he is today and he's down on his luck, classic screenwriting. I'm digging it. Get him on the set. As soon as he gets on the set, let's get into this fucking plot. But there's 20 minutes of him just being on the set, and it's I know what they're doing, and they're focusing on the relationship between him and Blunt, and will they, won't they? But a lot of the scene work between Gosling and Blunt in particular feels very much like a Judd Apatow improv movie, where the scenes just sort of go on and on and on, and it feels like these two are just sort of riffing with each other. And as fucking gorgeous as both of them are, and as utterly charmed and parasocially in love with Emily Blunt as I have become. And I don't know when it hit me, but it's hit me hard, brother. I'm in love with this woman. These scenes drag, and they're not particularly funny, and they're not particularly interesting, and they're actually quite repetitive because we just hit the same points over and over and over again. Why'd you leave, Colt? Oh, well, you ever wanted to say something to somebody, but you couldn't quite come up with the words, and then you felt like if the words weren't perfect, they deserve perfect words, but you couldn't find the perfect words. Why'd you leave, Colt? Have you ever? And it just repeats itself. It repeats itself in the scene, and it repeats itself scene to scene. One of those is fine. 1.5 of those is great. We get the idea. We understand that she's potentially still interested in him, but she doesn't trust him. And she's got the biggest career obligation of her life hanging over her shoulders. Everything's going to shit. And we understand that he wants to win her back, but even if he can't, that he wants to do right by her because he recognizes that she's talented and that this is an amazing opportunity for her, that this idiot who he already resents, this Tom Rider character, is fucking up for her. So of course he'd be incentivized to go to any lengths to make sure this movie works. We get all that. So anyway, now let's talk about the movie itself. The movie is, eventually, once we get past that mark, it kind of wins me over. The movie is really kind of 3 movies in one. It's that adaptation of the television series very loosely, although the ending would lead you to believe that there's a potential for him to kind of be more aligned with the stunt by day, something else by night, kind of a thing. And I'd see another one of these. I think there's money here, and entertainment value, with a caveat. I'll get to it. So that's number 1. Number 2, the movie is a cheerleading exercise. It's a message movie, and the message is digital VFX have a use. There's a place for them, but real movies are made by stunt people and with stunt people and practical effects and pyrotechnics and real cars and car chases. And the best movies are augmented by special effects. They are not overruled by special effects. Practical suits, practical props. Yeah, it looks silly sometimes. Yeah, it looks goofy. But if you shoot it right, it's a better movie. And in particular, stunt people are a 100% necessary part of Hollywood and are a deeply entrenched part of Hollywood history. And they deserve Academy Awards, and they deserve recognition, and they deserve their names to be up there with the stars. This movie is directed by David Leitch, who was one of the co-creators and co-directors of John Wick. And those two have Chad Stahelski and David Leitch have split. I don't know if it was amicable or not. Both of them worked on the Matrix films. And he was a long-term stunt guy himself. And so there's meta layers to this because we're watching a movie about a movie being made. And so we get to see, when you do practical stunts, here's all the intricacies that are necessary. And yeah, there's that VFX person who's saying, wow, we just do this in the computer and afterwards. But it's not going to look anywhere near as good as, yes, it's more cumbersome to have to do all this stuff. And yeah, you got to deal with a lot more people. And yeah, it's a lot of headaches. But this is actually what it takes to make a major production with a lot of action work. And so a lot of the early action of the movie is us watching Ryan Gosling do stunts in the context of the movie that Emily Blunt is making, which is called Metal Storm. Okay, fair enough. Those stunts don't have a lot of stakes because we know that they're not part of the story. I know that Ryan Gosling isn't going to get beat up or die doing a stunt within the fictional movie of this movie I'm watching. Does that make any sense? So as cool as some of those things are, they're not nearly as interesting as the stunts that are performed later in the movie. And for patrons, I'm going to give you a little asterisk because I have an idea that would have made this movie a little bit, I think, better. But we'll come back to it for patrons over at patreon.com/binge movies. Okay. So that's the second movie. First movie is an adaptation very loosely of the TV show. The second movie is a love letter to stunts and practical effects. And a plea for them to be recognized and to make a return in Hollywood, which I agree with. The third is a rom-com kind of romance thing with between Blunt and Gosling. They do have chemistry. I wouldn't say it's like jumping off the screen, but they do have chemistry. And they both do a good job, but those three components, a meta movie about how movies are made, a movie within a movie that's commenting on the movie itself that we're watching and Hollywood in general, that's a big enough idea that if you're going to have this big idea, and especially with the emphasis on stunts, the other stuff kind of has to take a little bit of a back seat. And what they do with it is the main plot of the actual plot of the movie, right? Of the mystery of where is Tom Wright, and then eventually they find a dead body who isn't Tom Wright. Who the hell is this guy? And Colt trying to figure out what the hell's going on and solve the mystery. That actually takes third place at times to the Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling romance. That's what's emphasized more in the film. And I don't think those three things are equally distributed. I think this movie has a lot of big ideas. I don't think it completely executes on its big ideas. And therefore, I think that its smaller ideas, its more conventional ideas, suffer because of it. So there's somewhere in this movie that I think trimmed down, cut by about 20 minutes, recapitulated pace-wise, switching emphasis or integrating the story elements a little bit better. I think you have like a really great like summer classic, modern, fun film. As it stands in its current iteration, it's good, but it feels slack at times. It feels repetitive at times, and it feels the action isn't nearly as mind-bending as I wanted it to be, because ironically, a lot of the action involves digital effects. So while they're having this commentary on, oh, we have a stunt guy, and then we just put, you're the stunt guy, and we just put Tom Rich's face on you. You do all the work. We put his face on you. There are very clearly scenes where that's exactly what's happened to Ryan Gosling. So I don't want to go Jackie Chan with it, and this is what I'll cover a little bit, and in Patreon, what I think would make the movie better, is I think this movie would have been better had they stripped away the visual effects as much as possible. And if you want to make your point about, hey, we should get back to stunts, and practical stunt work is just as good or better than VFX, which is part of the argument, and stunt guys deserve, you got to go like Super Cop. You got to have people really doing this shit. And I part of me is like, okay, I realize insurance isn't going to cover that anymore, and you really run the risk of stunt people really getting hurt and so forth and so on. But if that's the point that your movie makes, and the movie does make that point at one point, Ryan Gosling is like, here's the secret of being a stuntman. Everything hurts. It all hurts. We pretend, we learn not to show the pain, but it's not that we do these things, they don't hurt us. We're just willing to take the pain to get the stunt on film. So guess what? It all fucking hurts. That's great. We needed more of that. I've got other ideas how to quote unquote fix the movie, or at least what I would have wanted over at patreon.com/binge movies. Third plug. Whoa. I'll finish by saying this. One of the things I appreciated about the movie, twofold, is I appreciate that Ryan Gosling's character as Colt Seavers is not a dummy. Because Ryan's very good at playing the Ken character, or the character he played in The Nice Guys, who's just like kind of in over his head and kind of an idiot and, kind of a fraud of some kind. That's not what he's doing here. He is a exceptionally competent, excellent stuntman and good person who has reasonable intelligence. He is maybe emotionally underdeveloped, but he's not immature. He's scared. So there's a lot of like real humanity to his character, and I really appreciated that. This movie is at its best. This is my final note for you. When Winston Duke, and I'm a bit biased because he's one of my favorite working actors today. I fucking love the guy. Anytime he turns up, I just love his swagger. I love his energy. I love his acting ability. I love his charisma. I love his stature. I love everything about this man. As an actor, I don't know the guy, but I love him as an actor. there's a scene where they finally, because he's the head stunt coordinator, who is a peer of Colt's, who eventually, in the 18 months that Colt's been missing from Hollywood, this guy's rose up the ranks to be like the head stunt guy. And they have a partnership scene, basically a doubles fight, tag team fight or whatever, where he ropes him into this mystery, and the two of them end up getting attacked by bad guys. And it's the best scene in the movie. The chemistry between those two guys leaps off the screen. I don't know if I want to see those two guys in a buddy cop movie. I don't know if I want to see those two guys in a sequel to The Fall Guy, because then what do you do with Emily Blunt's character, Jody? But I want Dan, which is the Winston Duke character, and Colt. I wanted more of that in this movie, because at one point, like, he just disappears. Winston Duke's character. He's like, I'm gonna go. Check out up front, or I'm gonna make sure there's nobody else coming in, and he just disappears out of the scene. The scene doesn't end. The scene actually goes up, ratchets up in the stunt stuff, but he's just gone. I'm like, the whole time I'm thinking, where the fuck did that guy go? Is he not witnessing this flaming boat chase right in front of the building he's supposed to be standing in front of? Shit like that. But if they make a sequel to Fall Guy 2, Winston Duke's got to be in it. He's got to be elevated to co-lead. Like, the three of them have got to be like the Fall Guy detective agency or bounty hunters or whatever. Those three. They got to do it together, my opinion. Okay, well, those are my thoughts. I would give it a Letterboxd score. I'd give this a solid 3 stars. It's fun. It's entertaining. Some of the stunt sequences are really good. There's some wasted talent, some slack, and some pacing issues. But overall, it's a good time at the movies. This feels more like a July release to me. It feels like a deep summer release. And I don't know why it's out in May. I don't know. Is there something else coming out this summer they feel would eclipse this? I'm not sure. But this is a good one. I liked it. It's not fantastic. It's just a solid piece of summer entertainment. It's a great popcorn movie, as the old folks say. So I would recommend it. Go see it. I would not recommend D-Box. The D-Box sucks for this one, if you have that near you. Just a standard seat's fine. All right. If you are a patron, this review rolls on. If you're not, until next time, binge on.